My sister stole $40,000 from my bank account to pay for her dream wedding, so I shut the entire ceremony down in front of 300 guests. I am the oldest of 3 siblings, and for my entire life, my younger sister, Sarah, has been the golden child. She could do no wrong. If she broke a vase, it was my fault for putting it there. If she failed a class, it was my fault for not tutoring her. I learned to live with it, moved out at 18, and started my own business. Over the last 10 years, I saved every penny. I ate ramen, I skipped vacations, and I drove a beat-up car, all to save for my own future house and wedding. I had exactly $45,000 in a high-yield savings account that my mother was a joint holder on from when I was 16. I forgot to remove her name. That was the biggest mistake of my life. Last week, I went to put a deposit down on a venue for my own wedding. My card was declined. I laughed, thinking it was a glitch. I checked my banking app. The balance was $0. $0. I froze. I called the bank immediately, screaming, asking where my money went. They told me a wire transfer was authorized by the joint holder, my mother, to a wedding venue called the Grand Estate. That is the venue Sarah booked for her wedding next weekend. I drove to my parents' house at 90 miles per hour. I burst through the front door, shaking with rage. My mom and Sarah were in the living room, looking at flower arrangements. They looked up, smiling, as if nothing had happened. I threw my phone on the table and screamed, "Where is my money?" My mom sighed and said, "Lower your voice. Sarah needed it more than you. You can always save up again. You're good at making money." I stared at them. Sarah chimed in, fixing her hair, "OP, don't be selfish. It's my special day. You don't even have a date set yet." I needed the deposit now or I would lose the date. "We'll pay you back. Eventually." I asked them how they planned to pay back $40,000 when Sarah has never worked a day in her life and Dad just retired. They didn't answer. They just told me to stop being dramatic and that family helps family. I walked out without another word. They thought I was accepting defeat. They thought I was going to let it go. They were dead wrong. I didn't go home. I went straight to the police station. I filed a report for grand larceny and fraud. But the police said since Mom was on the account, it was a civil matter. I needed a lawyer. So I got the best lawyer in the city. But legal battles take time, and Sarah's wedding was in 3 days. I needed immediate justice. I realized that if I couldn't get the money back before the wedding, I would ensure there was no wedding at all. I knew the vendor contracts. I called the Grand Estate pretending to be my mother. I had all her security questions memorized. I asked for an itemized receipt of the payment. Sure enough, it was paid using my life savings. I didn't cancel the venue yet. That would be too easy. I wanted to see the look on her face when the walls closed in. I waited until the morning of the wedding. Everyone was getting ready. I showed up at the venue, dressed in a nice suit, looking calm. My mom hugged me, whispering, "I'm so glad you came to your senses." I smiled and said, "I wouldn't miss this for the world." The ceremony began. Sarah looked beautiful, walking down the aisle in a $5,000 dress bought with my money. As the priest asked, "If anyone has any objections, speak now or forever hold your peace," I stood up. The room went silent. My dad glared at me. I walked to the front, pulled out a microphone I had hidden in my jacket, and connected it to their sound system via Bluetooth. I turned to the 300 guests and said, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but this wedding is a crime scene." Sarah's face went pale. My mother stood up, screaming for security. I continued, loud and clear. "Everything you see here, the flowers, the food, the venue, even the dress the bride is wearing, was paid for with stolen money. My sister and mother drained my life savings, $40,000, to fund this party without my permission." The crowd gasped. Murmurs erupted. The groom looked confused. He turned to Sarah and asked, "Is this true? You told me your parents paid for this." Sarah started crying, screaming that I was a liar, that I was just jealous. I pulled out the bank statements I had blown up onto poster boards and had my friend unveil them at the back of the room. The transaction dates matched perfectly. I looked at the groom. "Run, man. She started your marriage with fraud. Think about what she'll do to your finances." The groom dropped her hands. He looked at her, looked at the evidence, and shook his head. He walked off the altar. Sarah collapsed, sobbing, screaming at me that I ruined her life. But I wasn't done. The venue manager walked in. I had called him 10 minutes prior and explained the situation, threatening to sue the venue for accepting stolen funds if they didn't cooperate. The manager announced over the PA system, "Ladies and gentlemen, due to fraudulent payment activity, this event is effectively cancelled. Please vacate the premises immediately." The chaos was beautiful. Guests were grabbing gifts back from the table. The caterer stopped serving food. My dad charged at me, face red with anger, but my friend, who is a bodybuilder, stepped in front of me. I looked my mother in the eye and said, "You said family helps family? Well, I'm helping Sarah learn a valuable lesson about theft." I walked out of the venue, got in my car, and drove to a steakhouse. I ordered the most expensive meal on the menu. My phone blew up with threats from my family, but it was music to my ears. The aftermath was swift. The groom annulled the marriage before the paperwork was even filed. He broke up with Sarah that same day. Sarah was liable for the cancellation fees, which were astronomical. Since the wedding didn't technically happen, the vendors refunded a portion of the money, but because I had alerted the fraud department, the refunded money didn't go back to my mom, it was frozen pending investigation. My lawyer had a field day. We sued my parents for the remainder plus emotional distress. They had to sell their vacation home to pay me back. Sarah is now living in my parents' basement, single, broke, and miserable. She tries to message me on Facebook from fake accounts, blaming me for her trauma. I simply reply with a screenshot of my restored bank balance. We haven't spoken in 2 years, and honestly, life has never been more peaceful. The best part? I used the recovered money to put a down payment on a house 3 states away. They don't even know where I live.